All right, we are rolling. WebEx is up and running. We have all 5 members present, 4 in-house, 1 on WebEx. And so we do have a quorum. Grant County Board, Drainage Board is called to order January 30, 2024. And in front of us, we have approval of minutes at this time. I think those are the January 9th.
I've read them. I'll approve them. Kenny Cates on WebEx.
Thank you, Kenny. Motion. Second, Richard Cox. Any comments, editorial changes? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kenny via WebEx. All right.
Abstain.
And 1 abstention. So we had Kenny by WebEx, Pat was an abstention, and 3 other ayes in-house. All right. Jim, if you'll walk us through the claims, please.
First one, Chronicle Tribune, $40.68 on the Polywalk open ditch, $26.28 in the red. Chronicle Tribune, $40.68 on the Waters open ditch, $26.28 in the red. Chronicle Tribune, $27 on the Eckelbarger Zirkel tile, $40,485 in the fund. Peerless Printing, $40 for office supplies, $300 in the fund. Grant County Treasurer, $2,273.33. This is a loan repayment, maintenance to General Drain Improvement Fund for the Powers tile.
They're out of the red now.
Good. So we have those claims in front of us. Any questions on the work? Most of it is advertising. So, yeah.
Move we pay these claims.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Cox, second, Mr. Goff, to pay claims as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
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 WebEx.
Via WebEx, thank you. I know it's crazy, we have to say that all the time, Kenny, but that's the way the law set it up, so we have to identify ourselves if we're on WebEx. Appreciate it. So that is carried unanimously. Old business, we have not gone any further with the attorneys on Little Crane Pond situation.
Are we gonna get that resolved sometime?
We're ready to start moving on that now that we've got Hummel Creek out of the way.
Just gotta get Pat moving on it.
Pat's waiting to see what his attorney's going to talk to him. He wants his mouthpiece to talk for him, so. Nothing under new business. Other business, we have to look at the 2024 maintenance billing. We have to have approval for that, as well as the joint maintenance billing for 2024. And I don't know if you gentlemen have had the opportunity to look at those, but those are up to and including our most recent that we just passed for
Yep,
folks
Polywalk
down
and
south.
Waters.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So with regard to the 2024 Grant County maintenance billing, what's your desire, gentlemen?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have to have 2 separate votes.
Correct. That's why I said just on the 24 maintenance billing for Grant County.
You made a motion.
All right,
A second.
that was Pat and Gordon. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye. Cates on WebEx.
Thank you, sir. Now regarding the 2024 joint maintenance billing as has been presented,
I move we approve this joint billing.
Motion, Mr. Cox.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Pinkerton. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Kate's on WebEx.
Aye. It is unanimous. All in agreement, on WebEx. All right. Kenny, do we have we don't have a stamp for you, do we?
Yes,
I do. Yes, I do.
You do? Okay, good. Permission to use your stamp for this?
yes.
Thank you.
Eric's got it.
All righty.
And I can use it on the minutes as well, correct?
Yes.
Yes, if he gives you permission to use his signature that way.
Can I use your stamp on the minutes?
Yeah.
All right. I was going to just note that Raymond gave us a item for the spray program. That's for our review. We can talk about it at a later date, but that's been given to us. Next, in our other business, we have a discussion with Apex Solar System.
Can I,
Sure, go ahead and mention the drink
well,
list.
the drainage issues that Mary and a lot of work gone into that, and very good that she gave us a copy of that.
Okay.
Thank her for all the work, and
She worked hard on that.
and Raymond too for the spray thing.
That's our current drain list and what is being charged for acre, for
Everything.
house, for
And then I have
minimums.
the most previous hearing date, and then what the hearing was, and then what it changed to.
A little bit of history for you guys.
Yeah. And whether it's outbound or inbound, and that's a very complex list. I thank you for all the work you
Yeah.
did.
Just as a question, is this on a program that we currently have, or has someone developed this program so that you can print this out?
That thing I printed is Darren's program, and then I wrote the information on it pertaining to what I thought you might want.
Yeah, you added into it, so I'm just wondering if there's some way that we can get all of that into one thing.
I could ask Darren.
Spread form so that it's just more uniform. That,
I tried to print neatly too.
oh, you did an awesome job, but
Okay.
I think it'd be helpful for us in the future if we do this to
I'll talk.
have it in a larger spreadsheet form.
Okay, I will talk to Darren.
All righty. All right. Let's say this. Any other business before we go to Apex Solar discussion? No? Okay. With regard to it, Kenny, if you would just give us the history on why we're here, and then we'll do some ground rules to help us through the morning, okay? Can you give us some?
Well, I've talked to Kelly there twice. And both times I expressed that we are going to have, the only thing we talked about was ditching. And that on the main tile, we're going to have to be 150 feet on each side. So that's a 300-foot easement on the main tile that's involved in this ditching. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a motion that we make this tile 150 feet on each side, which would be a 300-foot easement, because they're going to be some tile that we cannot get deep enough in the original basin. So, I mean, I can either make a motion now or after we get done listening to her.
I'd recommend that we don't do any motions until after we've had information come in, and I do think that we're going to probably have some issues, at least legally on that. We can work around that and discuss that, but is there anything else besides the ditching and the the concept of the 150-foot easement that you're aware of that we need to be talking about right now?
Not, the only thing I've talked about is ditching.
Okay,
But everybody has the draft in front of them, Kenny, that you prepared, and they've read it this morning.
and this draft that we've gotten is not what we had talked about or agreed to. Some of there are some additions that I think maybe have come from the area plan. We'll take a look at this, but again, some of these are not things that we originally agreed on, and there are a couple things that we didn't even, that are not on here that we did talk about and agreed to. So we'll work on that over the next weeks again, but we can start with this ditching and setback or easement area in discussion. Technically, we have the opportunity to hear from the representatives from Apex. I think they have a presentation, give us the opportunity to have some questions and answers. Who's here representing Apex? All right, would you just kind of step up and introduce yourselves? Let us know where you're from so we have that on the record. And
I'm going to share my screen as well. If I can find it. PowerPoint. That's the wrong one. Okay. So my name is Callie Chaplin with Apex Clean Energy. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. It's where the headquarters of our company is. I have printed the presentation out for you guys if you would like a copy. Just pass it up really quickly. So I just wanted to kind of quickly run through a little bit about the company and how we handle main drains and wheel tile. And so I brought Roger Hunker is a development coordinator. He's like our on-the-ground guy, farmer from Ohio. And then Brian O'Shea is our public engagement manager based out of Minnesota. This one's just like a little brochure on kind of all things solar. I'm going to try to keep the discussion drainage focused. But first, I quickly wanted to run through a little bit about Apex, who we are. Let me see.
You're gonna need to get closer to a microphone
Is this better?
there.
Is this the microphone that works?
Yeah.
Or that, okay.
yeah,
Sorry, I was
just
walking
speak into
around
the microphone because it'll pick it up not only for the recording, but it's sometimes hard to get through that owl. I think they've gone just to the microphones now.
Okay. Sorry, I should know how to do this. How do I like make it full screen? Oh, I got it from beginning. Sorry. Okay. So a little bit about Apex. We are a clean energy company across the United States, and as you can see from this slide, we have commercialized about 8 gigawatts of projects, and we currently operate 2 gigs. So this means that we have built about 35 projects. We're funded about 14 years ago, or founded, sorry. And in that time, our scope of work is to develop, finance, build these projects with the ultimate goal of owning and operating one day. And the way that we do this is through our wide variety of resources we have in-house. So we have people from public engagement, we have a transmission team, an environmental team, all with, again, the hopes to own and operate. And so basically Apex builds utility scale projects, and these are the large ones. And we take them from project origination all the way to operation. During project origination, we will greenfield these projects, typically using desktop data to find areas with good solar and wind resource. And then we check for environmental fatal flaws, transmission capacity, so on. We will permit the projects and then go into construction. And all of these projects that we operate, we have a remote operation control center based out of Charlottesville. It's staffed 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If anything goes wrong at these projects, they know about it. They send people out to fix it. So here's just a map showing kind of where Apex is across the United States. Blue represents wind and orange represents solar. As you can see, there's a lot of blue on the map. That is because we started as a wind company and we're just recently kind of getting into solar. I think something more applicable to you all would be what we look like in this specific region. So you can see we have quite a few wind projects built in Illinois, and the closest apex solar project to Grant County, Indiana is in Logan County, Illinois. It's called Mulligan Solar. We do have a handful of other projects in Ohio that have been permitted by the state. One is in construction and the other two are going to go into construction later this year, early next. But again, as Kenny said, we're here because Grant County, we're developing in, we're leasing land north of Swayze, and he has brought it to our attention. There are two main drains that you guys probably know, Lumbo and Zirkle. You mentioned it a minute ago. Those are kind of in the area that we're looking. But just a little bit about the project and where we are right now. It's very early stage, so we began leasing efforts in 2021. We received a PJM queue position in 22. We will have delays from PJM, who's the grid operator, because they're doing this thing called queue reform, where they'll process solar applications in a more efficient manner once they finalize the process. We also participated in ordinance discussions in 2022. I myself did not, but my coworker Jess Walsh and Brian O'Shea were here for that. So looking ahead, again, we're early stage, so we wouldn't start permitting studies until about 2026. Submit an application in 27, go into construction 28, operate in 29. So very far out from building anything, but we are just here to kind of talk about how Apex handles main drains and field tile repair and mitigation. So I'll pass it off to Roger to talk about drains and tiles.
Hi, guys. Roger Hunker from Bellevue, Ohio. So just a couple hours to the east. First off, appreciate what you guys do. I grew up watching my dad in Ohio do soil and water on the soil and water board for years, and so I get where you guys are coming from. But so a little bit in what Apex is doing is as we go through solar projects and working on tile. We do what we can to avoid tile. We definitely make sure that we're cognizant of where those mains are at, trying to locate those so that we can then work on our layouts to cause as little impact as we can on either those landowners and definitely the adjacent landowners. So, I mean, we work with the landowners to try to see what tiles they have. We would work with you guys, see what maps and things that you have that you can share so that we can do that location. And once, past that, simply try to figure out where those outlets are at, and if we have to have a local tile company come in and help us locate those by whatever means that they can. And those are things that we're doing on those projects that Callie was talking about that we're working on in Ohio. So then as far as repair, if we do come into issues that we damage a tile, we need to fix it. We're going to work with a local tiler and try to get that fixed, do it the right way, bridge it, get something underneath it so we don't have any issues down the road. And now some of that with laterals and things like that, just I'm going to be honest, we may not know that right away, but we're there to fix those as those issues come up. Yeah, the lease agreement covers that for the life of the project. Things come up, we'll get in there and get them fixed. And the diagrams here will kind of show that. It's no different than what you guys would have with any current issue that you have, any blowouts that you're going to fix. Put some stone in there to support the bottom and get that bridge across there so that we don't have any issues later. And we just threw in some pictures of a couple projects that we worked on here. They're just using a more rigid pipe to help with that bridging as they go through to fix that. And this is just showing an example of where we're tying those laterals back into the mains. Just simple tile repair that you guys all understand and deal with every day. But those are just things that we do. We understand it. We know where we're at. So.
So, thanks, Roger. It is important to note that for county mains, you guys do have that 75-foot setback per state law. So we'd obviously set back 75 feet on either side, and then we usually use a construction buffer of about 15 to 25 feet on either side. We obviously wouldn't be building cleanup to an easement. But as far as what the county can do, the Drainage Board, in coordination with Apex, when it comes to this phase of development, as you all know, the solar ordinance passed, and in the ordinance is, or it requires developers to have an approved drainage plan prior to any issuance of permits. And in that plan, you can see on the left, I've bolded a couple important sections. The language is kind of vague, but I mean, it's a flexible document that we can negotiate when the time is right. It says any damages to private or public waterways, drainage ditches, field tiles, or other drainage-related infrastructure caused by construction, installation, or maintenance of an FSES must be completely repaired by the project owner to near original condition to not impede the natural flow of water. So by nature, everyone is protected through this ordinance and this drainage plan. Most importantly, this drainage plan must be to y'all's satisfaction. If it is not, it goes back through APC, and we keep on that cycle until we reach a common ground and something that we can all agree upon. So like I said, the ordinance language is not super detailed, but on the right-hand side are some examples of kind of how Apex has done drain tile mitigation plans with other counties, mainly from Illinois. So the main bullet points are just kind of how that document would be broken up, and then little bullet points are some details. So we'll identify like pre-construction and drain tile assessment phase, how you guys would like us to map the tile or find the tile, whether it's perimeter sweeping or whatnot, probing. And then we can agree upon installation standards and policies. Again, like this is a very standard one. I think you guys have like a preference list that I've seen in some minutes before, that any drain tile damage must be documented with GPS technology. Some things that we agree to are also like Apex would handle cleanup. If there's any like broken tile that we have to get rid of. Again, most importantly, the alignment, depth, gradient, and flow shall be maintained to the greatest extent possible. We understand we cannot break a tile somewhere and cause upstream or downstream impacts to landowners, especially if they're not participating. But like we did say, we are going to be in the area for 30 years if the project enters construction, so we will be here to fix it. The next section will be tile identification and repair, temporary and permanent. Again, this is a very flexible document to be negotiated when the time is right. Since we are early stage, we wouldn't necessarily be getting into this right now, but wanted to let you guys know and kind of remind you all that you have a lot of say-so in this matter. And then the repair process is detailed, how you guys would prefer us to excavate, do the bedding, lay the tile, and then the post-construction plan. Not only, like, you don't have to take my word that we'll be here for 30 years, you can require us to do certain things post-construction if things went sideways. So that is kind of all we have. Do you have any questions? My contact information is on that last slide, and thank you again for giving us a bit of your time this morning.
My question is, do you do any excavating?
Yes, so, oh, sorry. Yes, so on that diagram on the left, you'll see, we do excavate the trench about 2 feet wide. just with a regular excavator, and then you dig it out a little bit more on the side to actually reach the tile to repair.
My understanding is that up at Rochester, they're dozing the ground level. And matter of fact, they're selling some of the topsoil off of the ground up there where
Yeah,
they're
usu-
putting these solar panels.
Yeah, usually we try to keep grading to a minimum, it is an expensive construction practice. And then if we do remove any topsoil, we will like set it aside, and when we go to backfill, we put the topsoil back where it should be. I guess if landowners wanted the soil gone, they could sell it.
Another
That'd kind of be
question,
up to them. Yes.
another question. There, where you've got some ground leased, you got about 5 or 6 houses joining this ground. Now, if you take and go in and ruin their tile, what are you gonna do about if their crappers don't work?
You mean like their septic tanks?
Yeah,
Perimeter drain.
Well, I hope we wouldn't have that large of an impact, but, so if they're non-participating parcels, we can't touch their tile. And as I mentioned, the county main, we're gonna set back from anyways, because you guys do have that easement. So if it comes to like field tile and your laterals, we'll repair that, and if a problem arises, the landowner could give us a call and we'd come out and dig it up and replace it. Hopefully neighbors' septic tanks wouldn't, I don't know what really goes
I
into that.
realize septic tank, but there's a ditch that runs out into the fields, most of the fields, okay? And you're gonna be close to them.
Yeah, Kenny, so those are things that we'll do, those studies as we're going through the planning process to identify those. And if we feel there's going to be an impact, then we'll look at the option of can we reroute that to limit that issue?
Problem's gonna be finding all these. That's the.
Exactly. But if we know where their septic's at, we can at least start there and know where the perimeter is at and try to identify that outlet.
My
And-
next
and do what we
question.
can.
Yeah, that'll be a private drain running
Yes.
down to our county
Yep,
tile.
yep.
Might need to run a trench along your property line to
Yep.
catch all these laterals.
Yeah, we have
grander
that same situation in a project we're doing in Wyandotte County in Ohio. I'm thinking of 2 homes right now that they're kind of up high, the ditch is down low, there's potential panels in between. I don't know that we're gonna put panels there, but if we do, yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how to reroute their tile so that we don't cause any issues. And
We got
we've already
another-
looked at the plan.
We got another problem. We've got, where you're signed up, what you've got signed up. If you go over 2 or 3 farms, there's a private tile that comes into the main. It's hooked into the main. Now, when this private tile is gonna come across where you're putting up solar panels, and there's 2 farmers on over that basically is gonna get cut off. What are we gonna do about them?
We're not going to cut them off, number one. We can't do that. And so that's where, especially, obviously, you know where those at, or roughly where those are at, so we're going to identify where they're at. Again, I'll use the Wyandotte County as an example. We're actually doing some perimeter trenching just to look and see, because they don't have maps on a lot of the area ground or the ground outside of it. So we're paying a local tiler to trench to see if he hits any tile. And if he does, then we're going to mark it, we're going to fix it, and then we've got that identified as to where it's at and what we're going to do.
The burden of proof is on you.
Yep. Yep.
The proof is on them?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're going to do everything we can to identify it.
Specifications, right?
To fix.
But the problem, the people signing these up don't have any idea where their tile's at. So you gotta get back to who's either farming the farm or whatever, okay? Um, it's gonna take a lot of work. And really, I think the county ought to be reimbursed for what they have to put into this to, either find somebody to probe or whatever.
I don't think anybody has a problem with that. Other concerns that you've got, Kenny?
Yeah,
Go
Right.
right ahead.
for right now.
Okay, okay. Raymond has a comment.
So in the situation, Kenny was referring to a mutual tile coming across and going across the property that the field, your solar fields will be going into. Whose responsibility is it for the expense of the tile from the perimeter of the solar field to get it from there to the main? Who will be paying that expense?
If we have to reroute it,
Yeah, if there's a 12
That's-
tile.
that's gonna be on us if we're rerouting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
And the one thing I would point out, yeah, you obviously can see where we've leased. Don't assume that panels are going everywhere. We are so far ahead of the process. We have no idea where they're going. And so, I mean, that's why we're here, is just to let you know, we have a lot of work to do. And so we don't know for sure where they're all going. But those are things that we put into our plans to figure out. Yep.
Another question.
Yep.
If you have electrical fields, electric or solar panels on one side of this mutual tile we're talking about, and on the opposite side of this mutual tile, how does the power transfer from one side to the other? Because we have heard that the electric lines are like 3 foot in the ground, and that's basically where most tile run, is around the 3-foot line. I just bringing up a question to you
Yep.
because I've heard it in the past. And
Yep. Yeah, so most of the underground is just gonna go from the inverter to the substation. Most of the others, is above ground with the racking. So there's not gonna be a lot of that. But again, if we know where that tile's at, then we're not gonna cut through it if we know it's there. And so we just have to go above it or below it.
Yeah, boring is an option in that case.
Well, if your elevation,
And
Now does-
most,
you can't go underneath or you're creating a trap.
if we
What holds
bore-
these solar panels up? Are they, how far down in the ground, and they put concrete around the post or what?
No, we plan to not concrete around them. We plan to just drive those posts. And again, that's going to depend on soil types as to how deep we have to go. I'm going to tell you 4 to 6 feet, depending on soil type.
That catches about all the tile.
Right. Understand that.
Okay, back to the power.
Yep.
Panel to panel is above ground.
Yes. It's in a crate.
Inverter to lines on the road is underground.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And there's one inverter for about every 30 acres-ish.
So basically, in the solar field itself, most of it is above ground.
Yep.
It's just your post that's gonna hit tile.
Yes. Yep.
What was the one thing under 30 acres?
We'll have one inverter for about every 30 acres of panels.
And that just collects all the power.
That collects all the power above ground and then takes it to the substation.
Okay.
And I heard just in comment from someone that those are going to be as far away from population as possible.
Yeah,
So
we
that
generally
there's-
put those like in the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, you say you're gonna reroute them if you have to, but sometimes there's not rerouting. it has to go where it
Yep,
goes.
understand.
What are you gonna do then?
So then we'll span panels if we can leave a post out, move a post. Yeah, we'll look at all those options. Or if we have to skip a spot, that's options that we have to look at.
And again, any easement that's made, we're not encroaching into
Right,
that space.
Right.
So any mains, that wouldn't be a problem.
I think you've got a lot of planning before you ever get to implementation. This board considers mutual drains, which is a step off of a assessed ditch or tile. We consider those to be a part of the inventory that's moving the water, and therefore, we're going to take jurisdiction over those mutual drains that aren't necessarily a part of our inventory. We're going to make sure that those are cared for. So whether it is in an agreement with your landowners or whether there's something that's put into an economic development package agreement in the future, just realize that those mutual drains are not going to be pushed off to the side, that we're what's one of the smallest mutual drains you think we've got? Do they go down as far as
6,
12?
4 inches.
Oh, that small.
Average 8, probably 10.
4 inches, 4 inches definitely go across property line.
Yeah. So, that may seem minuscule
No, I
compared to,
understand.
a 12 or a
Right.
24 or 36 or something, but if it's taking water from one property and getting it to our drain, to our ditch,
Yep.
we're going to be pretty tight on that.
Yep. I get it.
Other questions from the board?
Some farms, we don't know where the tile's at. How are you gonna find them?
So we will try to use aerials as best we can. We'll try to, if we can follow an outlet back and probe, we'll try to do that. We'll try to do some trenching. Some of it you just may not know.
Yeah.
We have 41 aerials and 61 and 69, and some of them show the old scars real good.
Yep,
Of county tiles and
Yep.
mutual, they would be available to
Yep.
study.
yeah. And we've got some of that.
Yeah, but Jim, you gotta go probe. You
Yeah.
take those aerials, you still
Right.
gotta go probe, find the
Yep.
tile.
Yep,
To give you an idea, some of them.
Give you an idea where to probe.
yep,
And, I'm
exactly.
sure there's other historical aerials, but that's what we have in-house to
Right.
look at.
I'm into some geek stuff. What about ground penetrating LiDAR? Do you utilize that?
We have started to use some of that, yep. And I've not been around it yet, but they were talking about using some of that in that Wyandotte County project, but we ended up just deciding to trench instead.
Okay. I just know again that we're serious about water in Grant County. We've gotten up and down both sides.
Yep.
We need to make sure that we're taking care of this. So, again, do we have any more questions from the board right now? Do you have questions of us specifically right now?
I don't think so unless you guys are willing to give us those maps soon, so that we can just start reviewing them. I tried to get like an aerial image, so the one on the left, bottom left is, you can barely even tell, but I tried to trace those two main drains, and I think I can see existing tile lines, but it's more Roger's job to help with that. So if you do have maps available, I would take those back to our subject matter experts to review. No, you don't want to give those up?
They're 41 aerial photos of 4 miles,
Okay.
660 scale to the inch. They'd be available to photograph.
Okay.
But somebody would have to come in the office, make an appointment, and actually photo the areas you're interested in.
Okay.
They even have pencil marks that point to 4 inch.
Notes and stuff over the years on them, you know.
But
Yeah.
that you can't see much with the naked eye, but when you take a picture
Yeah.
and then blow that up, it
Right.
can stand out.
Yeah, any help that you have for us on that is appreciated.
If we don't have any more questions right now, and they don't have questions of us, one of the things that we want to do, and we're not opening it up for extended amount of time, but there are a couple gentlemen here that had expressed to Kenny that they wanted to ask some questions, and we can take about 10, 15 minutes to do that. If anybody has questions that they would like to have answered, that's probably helpful at this time. So I'm happy if that's okay with the board to open that up to allow questions. Anybody have questions for Randy? Come on up. If we need to extend, a dialogue time after the meeting, that's all right as well, but at least we can ask some questions initially.
Sure. From some of the solar fields or solar developments that I've actually went and saw, being a farmer, we know that permeability of ground is the ability for rainfall to be absorbed. And when we are filling that surface with glass, it's going to impact the point of saturation where that water hits the soil, because it's not going to be able to necessarily capture it on the basis as it would without the panel being there. And what I've noticed is creating flooding in some situations where the water is not being able to be absorbed as quickly, which is causing it to create a runoff situation. Is this something you guys experience? And if that being the case, how are you anticipating that, and how are you dealing with it when it does occur?
So I will be honest, personally, I have not experienced it because our projects aren't that advanced. But part of that is just as part of the development and the construction of getting that grading right, getting the right grasses planted to help mitigate that runoff issue.
Also, to add, so a handful of mitigation strategies under panel planting, pollinator species, that all helps with infiltration of water, but the spacing between rows, it's not advantageous to Apex to pack those panels super tight because they cast shade onto the next row, resulting in power loss. So if you're imagining the panels being like perfectly flat, they're not going to be like touching and acting as just like glass ground. They will be spaced.
What is that space? I've seen one as tight as you can stick them in there.
Yeah, it varies.
There can be a little bit of
10
variation.
feet apart from panel to panel?
You can fit a mower through there easily.
Hear what they're saying.
The grass.
And is that rows of panels you're talking about, 10 feet between the rows, not the panels themselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be like a line, another line, 10 feet apart.
And those panels will rotate throughout the day.
So as far as maintaining that ground cover, what would be your willingness to do so? I've seen ragweed smaller than the panels.
So we purposely plant things that don't grow up super fast. Like I think we typically mow like 2 or 3 times a year just because the weeds don't grow up too tall. They're definitely not, again, if they come over the panels, it's making us lose power and money.
Absolutely, I
So-
didn't understand it either.
Yeah, we purposely plant species of grass that do not spike up like that. And
And
we,
then just work on a maintenance plan to
Yeah.
keep those weeds under control.
Okay.
Some of what helps that is establishments. Like at some projects, we try to plant, like even work with the farmer to, can we plant a cover crop, the season before construction? Can we do winter weed or something? To sort of like get a baseline, because if you do a lot of grading and you're planting it in the middle of construction, stuff's not gonna get established very well to block out the weeds. So I think having a good establishment strategy is something that we really try to like focus on to prevent the problem from happening and having to deal with it through spraying or weed management or things like that. Knock it out in the first place.
So how would you deal with a situation like we've just experienced here, with not having sunshine for the last 10 days with rain and mist and this development's going on? Do you pull that contractor off until those soil conditions become right for you to be in there?
From a construction standpoint, for construction. That's a depends answer depending on what the job is that they're trying to do.
I've seen pictures where the ruts are deep and you guys, they're in there in the mud and, that's gonna create compaction, which is gonna
That's-
reduce the
A
ability
lot
for the
of, a
soil
lot
to.
of that will fall on the contractor.
Okay.
And the ones that we're doing now.
Mark, get them closer to the mic because.
Yeah, I
Murray-
was thinking that. We've got about 10 minutes left, and if you'll stay close to the mic so that we can record and Kenny can hear.
Okay, there's one other thing I wanna
Well,
bring.
Mary won't be able to understand it.
The one other thing I want to bring, and I brought this to you guys as a vision for the future. And you correct me if I'm not right. I pay ditch assessment on county ditches based on watershed, correct?
Yes.
In the future, I feel like I'm buying the right to have an outlet to that county ditch that I paid assessment to have the right to. And in the event that we don't anticipate that, when the next generation may not have the ability to get that outlet tile to that ditch that we paid ditch assessment on, if solar development is between us. And as you go into the development stages of the drainage board's responsibility, I think we have to take that into consideration. You guys know what I'm saying? So would you be willing to anticipate and put an outlet to that adjoining property owner in the event that he wanted to ditch his property to get an outlet to that? I mean, I think that'd be better in your instance to do that.
I think that's worth a conversation with those landowners.
Thank you.
Wendell?
We can sit here and argue all day on this 150-foot easement, but I've been working with an attorney in Indianapolis. I don't have the answers I want yet, but on Cart Creek, and I realize Apex is not working, does not have the land that's over the top of Cart Creek, but there is a solar company over Cart Creek, and Cart Creek should have been replaced 10, 15 years ago. It did not get replaced because a lady lived to be 107, and so the people who inherited didn't know who was going to have to pay the bill. But I guess what I'm saying, Cart Creek cannot be put back in a 75-foot easement. And if we weren't dealing with solar panels, we would probably just move the main over and redo the 75-foot right-of-way. So in defense of Kenny, I feel like we've got to set some rules somehow that we have that 150 feet to work in. When we did the Elliott down south, there was, I'm going to say a half a mile was 17 foot deep. And 17 foot deep, you can't stack the dirt in that 75 foot right away. So I'm talking about two different situations. 17 foot deep, that dirt has not washed away from the tile yet. On the Cart Creek tile, we're messing with a 24-inch that when we replace it has to be a 36. The dirt has washed away from the top of the Cart Creek because the 24 is not carrying the water, so it's going over the top and washing soil away. So now we've got to get out of that ravine to get, most tile companies today would like to have 3 foot of cover on a big main. And we can't stay in that 75-foot easement and put in a new main. Yes, the law, I know what the law says because I've been down that road. But if there was no solar panels, I think the board would let us move that tile over and reroute it off to the side enough. The way we did Elliott, where we had to reroute, we moved the tile over, rerouted, and then we came back and went down the opposite side with a 12-inch to make sure we got all the laterals coming in, rerouted them back to the,
With the landowner's permission, we did the reroute. Did we vacate any of the old, or did we keep it still
no,
all in?
it's destroyed.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. We tore all the old out.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say all, 'cause we're not perfect people. But we did the best we knew how. Is that a good enough answer?
How far off of that original did you have to go?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna talk about Cart Creek, because Cart Creek's very obvious to us. I'm gonna say we're gonna have to go 100 feet to one side of it, redo it, and then, when I say 100, we're gonna have to have another 50, 60 feet to run the equipment, to stack the dirt, to redo the main. The Elliott tile, we had a 24 and a 27 that we tore out and replaced with a 48. And so we had to move a lot of dirt to put a 48 in. So go ahead.
Like you said, Cart Creek is probably, what, 110
Yeah.
years old or so? It needed to be done 20 or 30 years ago, but we couldn't get the cooperation. But the only way to do it is like you're explaining, go to the bigger size and move her over into deeper soil, because that's your outlet. Where they're wanting to put this solar is right where the last field bout goes to the ditch, open ditch itself.
Yeah. Well, and the trouble with that Cart Creek, where solar people have, I don't know what you want to call it, leased, rented, whatever, that thing is so crooked down through there.
You almost need an open ditch through that property right now.
I didn't hear you.
To open it up and,
Raymond, you didn't hear anything he said, did you?
well, that'd be the easy answer for everybody's drainage south, is to extend the open channel.
I got my hearing aids on, I can't hear you.
And then put the larger tile in.
I'm not going to.
Not through your property. We stopped before we got to
You
yours.
stopped at neighbors, right? Yeah. Well, the Powers drain, we're working on it, and I don't know how many feet they had to go off of the old tile to get cover.
To get to-
It was
Yes.
several feet, and that's, they did that last summer.
Yeah,
So the same thing you're talking about, and you're not sure where it's gonna have to go until you actually do it.
well, and just like Cart Creek, Sweetser went through and put a bunch of fiber optic in out there a couple years ago. We went and shot Cart Creek where we want it to go, where we think it'll go. And we've got all that fiber optic down 15 feet so we can go over the top of it. So they were very cooperative where we got across the roads with that. 'Cause that Cart Creek goes from 18 to almost 300 north. Yeah.
You bring that as a concern to us, but that's not in this Apex field right now? That's a different
No,
company?
it's a different company.
Okay.
But I'm just using it because I'm
Yeah.
very familiar with it.
And we need to make sure that in the context of all the requirements that we have, that is a condition that we negotiate with before it would ever go back to area plan. That needs to be decided here.
Well, but, Kenny,
Yes,
I just want to see if he was awake. The one, out there at Graham's, north of the Co-Alliance, is that Apex?
yes.
Okay,
And that's all washed out down through there.
so we're dealing with the very same thing on that.
Same
tile out
thing
there.
there. And the same thing back on the Zirkle tile.
Okay?
Yeah. So,
And when we set this up, it might as well be a precedent for all the rest of the county drains, because whether it's Apex or who it is, you're all gonna have the same problem on some of these main tile.
but yeah, the one out there on 13, that goes underneath 13, is the exact same thing. It's gonna have to be moved over. If there was nobody involved other than just farmland, it's real simple to move over, and a little bit of work with the drainage board and the surveyor, and we're off and running. Thank you for your time.
But if you have the solar unit in place and they redo it, it's caused a problem.
A very serious problem.
No, it is a problem. But,
And so, you know,
and all these tile is over 120 years old, okay? And needs replaced, but the whole problem's been money, you know? Back there on the Zirkle tile, you got the same problem on it, and it takes about 550,000 plus to replace that. So you got to get a collection to get the money. If they're not going to do it, these solar companies is not going to come in and put in new tile, then they're going to have to leave us room.
Yeah. Understand.
And paying you guys would happen under that economic development plan that you mentioned. We could kind of divvy up money however you guys wanted. So it could be put to drain repair for your mains that y'all speak of.
I had another farmer. Dave, did you want to ask any questions about it?
No, my concerns have been covered by.
Okay. We got about maybe 5 more minutes if anybody else has any questions, and feel free to stay and dialogue as much as you want to on that with Apex or any of the board members as well. But we want to make sure that we did some initial work. I really don't think we're ready for any kind of a motion like that. I would be interested to hear what Wendell's folks say out of Indianapolis. And I put in a text again to our attorney about the 150 feet. I believe that state law supersedes us, but we can do legal agreements with the landowners and the companies, and or the county with economic development can make those stipulations of well in any kind of agreements in the future.
Well, I'm going on record as saying I agree with Wendell, okay? And
Well, you can't agree with Wendell, can you?
I don't want to, but
We'll put that in the record.
I'll put it in print for
we've
you.
done enough ditching that what he's saying is right. And those tile, you can't go back in, and once they come in and put up solar panels on each side, you're in trouble. You can't ditch.
I don't want to open up another can of worms right now, but Wendell, if we went in there right now, readjusted everything just like that before they ever got into their planning stuff, how much would that cost?
okay, are you asking, if we went to Cart Creek and put
Cart
in,
or Zirkle,
Yeah.
either one of those.
Zirkle is gonna get real expensive. We're talking, man, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I am, I'm sorry, but I would like to know. I mean, are we talking the Elliott cost? That much?
I'm gonna tell you, Zirkle would take $1 million to
What?
get from the creek to under 13 and get out of Apex's way.
Costs about $1 million.
Don't
That's
hold-
almost
don't hold me to
reconstruction,
that
isn't it?
now, 'cause
That's a
I'm-
reconstruction.
Up to $1 million, say it that way.
Yeah.
Up to $1 million.
Okay.
Is the solar units willing to accept that responsibility?
Probably not.
I don't think it would be in Apex's best interest to completely pay for the reconstruction of that tile and then have to avoid it as well. If we could reroute it in any way, it would so far from.
Yeah.
So there need to be some benefit to us in order to put forth money towards that.
That's a good political answer. Since you aren't on the negotiating side of things, we appreciate that.
The rerouting, I'm not going to argue with anybody that put a tile in 100 years ago.
Right.
Them people were phenomenal. Them people knew what they were doing.
They put it where it needed to go.
Yeah, and when
Things
we
have
talk
changed.
about rerouting, yes, I have rerouted some, but to reroute a main, the Elliott tile was 3.5 mile long,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and there just wasn't room to reroute.
Yeah, it mean like entirely.
Yeah, I understand, I
But
understand.
as you were saying, just like scoot over to where they
Yes.
needed to go.
Yes,
It would just have to benefit our company.
yeah, but
100 years ago, you weren't putting a tile 16 foot deep.
Yeah.
well, but see, the 27 is almost 16 feet deep, and they was put in with slip scoops.
Really.
Now, I do not know how they got that job done.
Long weeks.
But I mean,
A whole lot of horses.
so, yeah, I don't know, but I'd be glad to do some fast figuring on it.
If you would do some and let me know, I greatly appreciate it. I really would.
I'd have to know the acres going in that one, circle.
We've got it on record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've gone a little bit extra over and appreciate everyone's time today. Folks, you're going to stick around in case there are folks that want to chat with you, and we will go from there. Our next meeting is February what, gentlemen and secretary?
13th, I think it is.
13th, all righty.
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah, 13th. I'll be back for it.
all right, good.
I think so, Warren.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. WebEx.
I had three motions,
Three at one time.
Gordon, Pat, and Kenny.
Pick one.
We're giving it to Gordon.
Okay.
We'll let you second that. How's that? All right, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried. Thank you for your time. Stay warm down there, Kenny.
Had a jacket on yesterday. Gotta have one on today, she says.
Like a pile, and we go around the pile.
Okay.
Okay.
Man.
I think this is like, it's too late.